Welcome everyone to the Game Disc Podcast, where every week we discuss the past, present, and future of the video game industry. I'm your host Simon Esty, and I'm joined by my co-host
Noah Esty.
And today we're doing the Great Game Disc Game Draft of 2024, or GGDGD24. Then we'll talk about the games we are most looking forward to in 2024. We will get to all of that, but first, Noah, how are you doing today?
I'm not doing too bad, but Simon, I think you forgot to mention something in the intro.
Yeah, you're not in Japan anymore.
That's correct. I am.
You're sitting across from me.
Exactly. It's the first time we've done the podcast where live in studio. Don't have to worry about me recording it from halfway across the world. Don't have to deal with time zone differences. I'm right here. I'm focused. I have my Logan Paul's Prime with me that I've been drinking, not available in Japan.
It's not sponsored by Logan's Paul's Prime. But yeah, other than that, how are you? How's everything going? How's it feel to be back home? And
it's good. It was a little bit difficult coming back just because dealing with the time zones. I have trouble sleeping on the airplane, so I actually accidentally got into a thing. I think it's called like biphasal sleeping pattern, which for those of you who don't know, instead of sleeping a full 8-hour stretch, 7-hour stretch, you do half of your sleeping at one point, and then you wake up for a couple hours, and then you do the other half, which was so inconvenient when you want to hang out with people. And I'm finally just getting over that, and yeah, now things are going good.
Yeah, and we're, of course, recording the podcast for the first time in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But we're glad to be back. So this episode is going to be a little bit different because of the holidays and things. There's not really any news. The big news kind of from the past couple of weeks was the Insomniac hack, which I think pretty much every website, every other podcast has covered. Was there anything specifically you wanted to mention about that? I think really kind of the only big, I guess, information we can glean from it is that Insomniac's doubling down on Marvel, and Wolverine is not releasing this year, which, or 2024, I guess, since this year is coming to a close.
Wait, hold on. It might still release this year. Let's keep out hope.
Seeing as though their internal estimates were like 2026, I
should
think
just shadow drop it tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that Insomniac is going to shadow drop Wolverine 2-3 months after their last big budget game. But do you want to say anything kind of about it?
Not really. The only big thing is that Sony does. I feel like Sony is probably going to try to ramp up security for their studios. Sony has honestly had a history of hacks, and I feel like we don't really see this many hacks for other studios. So I think Sony might really want to start. Yeah. Really enforcing that, or really investing a lot more in cybersecurity.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Mm-hmm. But so I know that was like our one news story this week, and we didn't have much to say because again, other people have covered it. So today we're going to be kind of doing something a little bit different. We are going to play a game that we alluded to last episode, and this game is going to be the Great Game Disc Game Draft of 2024. So the way this is going to work is that Noah and I are going to basically pick games that we think will be good that are releasing in 2024. And at the end of the year, we will add up those Metacritics, and whichever game or whichever one of us has a higher score will win. So a couple of kind of ground rules. We are going to start by drafting 6 games. If we kind of feel like we just picked really safe games and that it's not fun, we may pull and increase that to like 7. The other thing we're going to do is probably at like some point halfway through the year, we'll do an additional 3 after like kind of Summer Game Fest, any Nintendo Directs, anything like that. Microsoft will probably do a summer showcase. We can do all of that. The other thing is that we are allowed to swap out one game. If we pick a game and it ends up getting delayed out of the year, we can swap it out for something as long as it hasn't come out yet. Now, if we pick 2 games that are delayed, we're stuck with that second game. We only get kind of 1 transfer. That's pretty much it, though. Was there anything else you kind of wanted to add about it? Any game is on the table. You can say whatever you want, and
as long as it has not been previously released.
yes, and I think just to kind of make it more fun, no remasters, no collections. So like that upcoming like Phoenix Wright collection, I don't think should count. Big boy remakes do count. So like you could pick Resident Evil 4 or Dead Space if those were coming out, but no like Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remaster. I don't think that we should do stuff like that just because that's not fun. We know those are going to be good games. But I think anything else is fair game.
I think that's true. I do think for me it should be, like you said, if it's more of a reimagining, like they're tweaking the gameplay, then I think it should count. However, if it's just all they're doing is a graphics update, so even if it's a really, really nice graphics update, but the gameplay is still the same, I think it should.
Well, I think we know the difference between like a remaster and a remake.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And since Noah won our Game Awards picks, Noah gets to go first. Noah, what is the first game you are drafting?
First game I'm drafting, well, for those of you who watched the last episode, the award that made me won the first pick was Most Anticipated Game. I chose Final Fantasy Rebirth, and to celebrate that victory, I think I'm going to choose Final Fantasy Rebirth.
Yeah, I figured you were going to pick that.
So, yep, that is what my pick is going to be, so let's lock it in, make sure it's written down, and...
I've got you at Final Fantasy Rebirth. One other thing I want to mention, so kind of going off that, you said Final Fantasy Rebirth was most anticipated, I said Hades 2. We should probably, if you want to pick Hades 2, you can.
Yep.
But if it's, because it'll probably release in early access before the game actually comes out. And if it does not release, it has to be a full release.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if the game is in early access in November and it doesn't come out until February of 2025, it doesn't count. So I'm not picking Hades 2 because I think it will come out in early access, but I don't think it's going to come out. But this is kind of risky for me, I think. But I think this game is going to hit really big. I'm going to do Dragon's Dogma 2.
Damn it, that was one of mine that I had. I highly agree with that. I think Dragon's Dogma 2, actually my girlfriend's most anticipated game of next year. I think so too. I have to agree. Capcom's on a roll, and I feel like it's been, 13 years since the last one, I believe, so I think they're going to knock it out of the park. I don't think that's a bad pick at all, actually.
Yeah. All right, Noah, you're up.
All right, so going to keep it another safe pick for now. I'm going to go with Tekken 8. Tekken 8, releasing early. We are entering a very good era for fighting games. Street Fighter 6 was phenomenal. Mortal Kombat 1 had some little controversies, but still very widely received. However, Street Fighter and Tekken are the two top dogs. Tekken, I think, is kind of becoming a bit more big for casuals, honestly, and there's a reason for that. Honestly, historically, the even-numbered Tekken games haven't been as good as the odd-numbered Tekken games. Like, Tekken 1 was okay, 2 was alright, 3 was great, 4 was kind of 5 was great, 6 wasn't bad, 7's great. But I got a good feeling about Tekken 8.
Okay, cool. I got you on Tekken 8. Alright, there's a couple of things I can do, and I don't know which one is going to be kind of my best pick. I'm going to go... This might be another kind of risky one, but I think that this game has a lot of people have played already, and the kind of pre-release buzz is like, no, this is actually a good game. I'm going to go Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Yeah, that's not a bad pick. It was one that I was thinking about. So, yeah, I don't think that's a bad...
That's what I was afraid that you would pick that. That's what I was like, because I was like, if he's looking at a list of the games coming out this year,
you wanna know what a risk is gonna be. This is my game. My next pick is going to be Black Myth Wukong.
I don't.
It's a game. It's gotten a lot of buzz, and I think that it's unproven studio, but it has gotten a lot of positive reception. I think that it's going to come out and it's going to be very, very good. That's my pick. not the safest of options, but let's go ahead and let's see. And if it somehow gets delayed, well, I do get one free pass.
No,
So.
that's true. You do get one free pass.
Yep.
No, I think that should come out this year. Skull and Bones, baby. No.
Oh wait, that's your next pick?
No,
Damn
definitely
it!
not. I'm thinking about what I want to do. I have a couple of options.
Well,
still.
real quick, so there's a teacher one of my teachers back in school told a story about how he had a teacher that said if you score a 0 on a test, he will turn it into a 100% because that shows
I've
that
heard.
you know, even if you know enough that you know what the truth isn't. So I think we should implement that rule, and if Skull and Bones gets a 0, that should count as a 100.
Yeah, I don't trust it that much. I don't think it'll be 0. I think it'll be just bad enough.
Yeah, 24 maybe.
I think that this game should be eligible, but if you disagree, let me know. Persona 3 Reload.
That's something that.
I mean, it's a full remake.
But you specifically mentioned Paper Mario.
That's a remaster.
I thought they were like a full remake, updating it from the ground up.
No. If
Really?
anything, it might be worse, because I think that there's rumors that it only runs at 30 frames per second, whereas the GameCube one. If you don't want me to pick it, I won't. But I think
I'll let you pick it. I'll let you pick it, but I'm gonna glare at you this entire podcast. Now that we're both sitting here, I'm just gonna glare at you the entire podcast.
I mean, it's a full remake. It's not like it's.
All right, okay, I believe you.
To
Yeah.
be fair, I actually think it's risky for me. I don't know how well it's gonna do because it's got some dated mechanics of it, and it's missing some things from the original. So I don't know. We'll see, but I think it'll be good enough. Also, I know we had talked about starting at 6. I think 6 is going to be a good number
Okay.
because I think I'm looking at it. We're halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting scared. I don't know what I'm going to pick anymore.
Oh well, I
Actually,
told
no,
you.
that's a lie. Actually, no, I just remembered a couple. I'm okay.
Yeah, I got 8 extra games that I'm willing to pick, so
Oh, you're ready to go?
I am ready to go. And I haven't even gotten into the weird stuff yet.
All right. Well, it's your turn. So,
Okay, so this is a game, I believe it's coming out this year, and if not, then I really hope either it or Wukong does. I'm picking Avowed.
Fuck!
Yeah! Simon, would you like to explain why Avowed is a solid pick, or would you like me to?
It's Obsidian. Obsidian doesn't make bad games. At most, they make games that aren't ready to be released, but are still somehow really good. And this is the first time they've got Microsoft backing them. So I think that this is gonna hit, and I think it's gonna hit really hard. I think this is gonna be a great game. Shit.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. You don't even have an Xbox. You're not even gonna play the fucking game.
No, but I might enjoy it more than you.
I am sure you might. No, this is okay. I can come back. I've got a couple of things that I want to pick. All right, I'm gonna do Unicorn Overlord. It's Vanillaware. Their games always do pretty well. Maybe it's not going to be the highest rated game, but it's a tactics game made by Vanillaware. At the very least, it's going to look really pretty. People have loved Vanillaware games. Every time the game comes out, it's always kind of flown under the radar, but they always do pretty well score-wise. So I think that this is a safe one for me.
All right, not a bad pick. I think I'm going to also do another safe one for myself. I'm going to do Helldivers 2.
Really? I think that's a little risky.
See, I think it's pretty safe because Sony doesn't really have much coming out soon. And so I feel like they're kind of watching Helldivers and they want to make sure that it's passable. Maybe it's not going to be 90s, but I think it'll definitely score, at least in the 80s. So that's why I'm going with Helldivers.
I think that's fair.
I'm hoping the sound quality is good.
This cat is rubbing himself on the mic, so we'll see how that goes. I think it's okay.
Yeah, which by the way, usually we're joined by my number one fan. Today we're actually joined by a little kitten here.
All right. So no, you and I both. I've got 2 more games. You've got 1 more. So I'm picking Star Wars Outlaws.
Really?
I looking at the list of games, I don't think Outlaws is going to be bad. It's going to be better than the Avatar game, and the Avatar game got like an 80 or something.
Uh-huh.
I think it'll be pretty good. When you look at Ubisoft's roster, I think the developers of this, it's the guys who made The Division.
Hmm.
I think that they're kind of one of the more talented groups Ubisoft has in its stable. I think this is going to be pretty good. Um, I'm also in a Star Wars kick, so maybe I'm just biased right now. But I think this game might hit. The preview Ubisoft showed looked really good. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So
Okay. All right. Is it my turn?
it is your turn.
All right. My last pick, I am going to go with the ultimate risky maneuver. Okay? This will either make or break my entire draft. Are you ready for this one, Simon?
I think I know what you're doing, but
You think you know?
and I think mine's riskier.
Really? I'm going Hollow Knight Silksong.
Really?
That is it.
Okay.
If that game comes out, I think it's gonna be phenomenal. It's been in development for such a long time. No news. I think they're gonna shadow drop it next year. And if they do it, then that's it. I feel like I'm going to shoot up. But if they don't, I'm really hoping that Wukong and Avowed come out next year.
I think Avowed is going to come out this year. Maybe it gets pushed. Black Myth Wukong, I think, will come out this year. I don't see a world where that gets pushed like 6 months. I think Hollow Knight comes out. There's no way it can't.
Well, let's see.
So, yeah, for my last game, I'm going to pick Suicide Squad kills. No.
Okay, good.
I think... So I thought you were going to pick Metroid Prime 4. You didn't. So now I have an option. I could go with a risky choice and pick Metroid Prime 4, because I do think that game is coming out this year. And looking at all of my games, the only one without a release date is Star Wars Outlaws, which I think is still comfortably in this year.
Yeah,
so
it's Ubisoft. No matter what, Ubisoft, they are good about releasing games. Maybe not the best when it gets released, but...
Skull and Bones would like to have a word.
Okay, but that game was supposed to be canceled years ago.
So I've got Metroid Prime 4, or the other thing that I'm thinking of, which is even riskier than Metroid Prime 4.
Really? Well, if I could be...
You know what? This is kind of fucked up of me, because it's like it's a rule I wanted to say beforehand, and I don't know. Now I feel like I'm kind of cheating because I could get 2 games that I'm thinking of. But if you agree to this rule, so what I was thinking originally was, you can, since you went first this time, I would go first when we do the additional 3. Or do you want to just flip a coin or something? I think either way, I'm not.
Well, to be honest, I thought I was gonna get the additional 3 because I went first this time.
All right, whatever. I'm done farting around. My final game that I am really banking on, I think a Switch 2 is coming out. And I think that Nintendo doesn't want to make the same mistake, so they're going to launch with a pretty strong window. I think we're getting a new 3D Mario. So that's my final game. Super Mario Odyssey 2, or whatever it is.
Oh, man, that is risky. Oh, man, that is definitely more risky than Hollow Knight. That is, oh, jeez, that's spicy.
Because the last game was Odyssey, which came out 2017.
But they released Wonder this year.
But it's different teams making it.
But it's still a Mario game. Well, now that I'm thinking
about it. Okay, think about it this way: the team that released Breath of the Wild, Breath of the Wild came out the same year as Odyssey. They just released, that same team has been working for the past 7 years. They made Tears of the Kingdom. That released last May. The Odyssey team has been working on something, and they've been working on it since only a couple of months after Breath of the Wild. They've got to be close to it being done. I think they're saving it for a Switch 2. I may regret this, but I think it's a safe choice. Not safe. It's risky. I know it's risky, but I think it makes sense.
You know what I hate? Mario Wonder came out this year. Mario RPG also came out this year. Next year we have Mario vs. Donkey Kong and Princess Peach. We've talked about how Nintendo is banking on Mario.
And what better?
I hate that come holiday season, Nintendo's going to release the Switch 2, and they need a killer app for it.
And Metroid is
too far in development.
Well, not only that, but Metroid doesn't move the needle like Mario does.
I mentioned that I was just glaring at you for Persona, and now I'm just looking down because the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, it's so risky, but it's like the pieces are all there. God, that is a spicy pick, but it's one that. Okay, I mean, I there's nothing I can say. It's risky, but it's and that's the draft. That's all I can say. I really I literally can't. I'm speechless. There's nothing to say.
I did it. All right. So let's see how this goes. I think we're good at 6. Or do you want to pull like 1 or 2 more?
I think if you'd like to pull 1 or 2 more, I got my list. You're running low. I got some games that would come out, maybe, but they are honestly a little safer than some. I used a lot of my risks, so my picks would be a little safer. So
let's do just because I feel like we're only at 6, and I'm looking at the list of games coming out this year, and there's a lot we haven't touched on. And yeah, like even your risky games, your riskiest game is I think Silk Song. That's still I think that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting a game, it's kind of more fun if we're like, well, we really don't know how this game will do. I want to say let's do 1 more, but okay. I have a game in mind that I don't think you'll pick, and so I want to push myself. So let's do 2 more.
Okay. Let's do 2 more. Metroid Prime 4.
Okay. I figured you were going to do that.
I forgot about Metroid Prime 4, honestly, until you mentioned it. So, yeah, I'm doing Metroid Prime 4.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes sense for the same reason my Mario makes sense.
Yeah.
But now you've got... That may have actually hurt you, because now you have Avowed, Silk Song, and Metroid Prime, and you're only allowed to kick out 1 of those, so you better hope...
And Wukong. Don't forget Wukong.
I think Wukong comes out this year. It's dated for August.
Oh, okay.
So it might get kicked to like December, but I don't see it getting kicked to January. Metaphor Refantasio.
What is that?
That is the Persona game. It's made by the Persona people, but it's not Persona.
Okay, so not Persona. Got it.
Not Persona.
Okay.
Let me make sure. Metaphor Refantasio. Yeah. Okay. All right. Last one. This is your final pick.
This is my final pick. All right. So I have 2 options I'm debating because they're both safer picks. I'm just gonna go with Princess Peach Showtime.
I think that's a safe pick.
Yeah, exactly. And I have some pretty risky games coming out. Not so much in will they be good or will they be bad, but mostly will they be coming out for sure this year. And there's another game I was kind of debating, but I decided not to.
You don't have to tell me what it is because I don't want to guess it if you're still thinking. Because again, we'll get like 2 or 3 more when we go. I don't know. I don't know what to pick for my last one. This is tough.
If you want, I can show you the list of games that I have that I was going to.
No, I'm okay. I've got one that I could pick, but I don't know how well it's gonna do.
I got one that I think could be. I know a game that you're excited about a lot, or that you're very interested in that you haven't mentioned.
What?
Granblue.
I don't know how good that's gonna be though. That's kind of one of the ones I'm thinking of. So the ones I'm thinking of are like Granblue. I could do Like a Dragon.
That was the one I was thinking of. But
that's like a safe one. Like it'll do fine.
Exactly, but
hit it hit though. That might hit
and that's really good. That's the reason why I chose not to pick it because they're games that a lot of people like, but their Metacritic score isn't usually super high, and the name of this game that we're playing right now is high Metacritic score. So that's what I was banking on. Not saying anything against the games at all. They're great games. They're really unique, but historically, their Metacritic score hasn't been the highest, and that was the only reason I didn't pick it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick it. I'm gonna do Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. I think that this one could hit pretty big. A lot of people liked the first Like a Dragon. I think that this one.
Well, I mean, yeah, Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. Technically,
Oh, you're right, yeah, it was
technically,
called-
Like a
yeah,
Dragon
yeah,
was
yeah.
the first one. If you wanna be the cool kids and no Japanese.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, I meant Like a Dragon, Yakuza Like a Dragon, whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our lists. I have Dragon's Dogma 2, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Persona 3 Reload, Unicorn Overlord, Star Wars Outlaws, new 3D Mario game, Metaphor ReFantazio, and Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. Weeby ass list. You got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Tekken 8, Black Myth Wukong, Avowed, Helldivers 2, Hollow Knight Silk Song, Metroid Prime 4, Princess Peach Showtime. Like I said, we'll probably end up doing some kind of we'll add on a couple of games. I'm thinking maybe 3. That put us at 8. That put us at 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, so we'll revisit this every time one of these games comes out. I think the first game that will come out is
Tekken 8, I think.
I
think Tekken
no.
8 comes out in like January, doesn't it?
Yeah, Like a Dragon comes out January 24th.
Oh,
Then Tekken 8 comes out January 26th,
Yeah.
and then Persona 3 Reload is February 2nd.
okay. So
Oh, wait, when does Prince of Persia come out? Prince of Persia. Oh, no, Prince of Persia is the first game, January 18th.
okay, so by February we're going to
By
see
January, yeah.
by January we're gonna see how good of a spot you're in.
Yeah,
And-
we'll know pretty quickly because of these 7 games, 4 of them come out by February.
Oh God!
Because yeah, I've got Like a Dragon, Yakuza, or Like a Dragon. What else do I have? Prince of Persia, and Persona,
Yeah.
all in up till beginning of February, and then I've also got Unicorn Overlord in March. So and then Dragon's Dogma I think is in March too. So by like March, I think by my last game, with the exception of new 3D Mario, is it's Unicorn Overlord, or no, it's Dragon's Dogma March. No, my brain's all bunked up.
Regardless, pretty early on, we're going to find out what kind of position you're in.
Yeah, yours is all over the place. We won't know until December 31st how you're doing.
We're gonna record. So we're recording this December 30th. Next year, we're gonna record December 30th. And we're gonna be like, all right. So it appears that I've won. And then the week after, it would be like, hey, we actually did a recount due to some new information, and Noah won.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our list. Yeah, we'll revisit that as those games come out.
Wait, did you say mine, or did you only say yours?
I said yours.
Oh,
Didn't I?
okay.
If not, I'll say yours again. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Tekken 8, Black Myth Wukong, Avowed, Helldivers 2, Hollow Knight Silk Song, Metroid Prime 4, and Princess Peach Showtime.
Alrighty then. Sounds
All right. So with that being said, we're not doing a game discussion today. We probably should have, but I wasn't sure how long this would take.
good. You have a
yes.
fun girl?
Yeah, dogs getting into the trash can.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. Noah, do you want to kind of talk about any games that are coming out in 2024? Kind of what are your, I guess, let's just talk about 2024 in general. This will be kind of our weekly game discussion. What are kind of your top 3 games going into 2024?
Ooh, that's tough. So I gotta go with Tekken 8. Probably, definitely the game I'm most excited. Yeah. Oh man, what was that? Oh
Words
jeez.
are rough.
A little. That's why I'm excited for Tekken 8, where your fists do the fighting. But
Talking.
yeah, so I really like fighting games. I am really interested in the FGC and learning about it and watching videos. Despite that, I have never really gotten into Tekken. Not really because I don't like the game. It's just 2D fighters are what's more familiar to me. So that's what I've always kind of gravitated towards. With that being said, I do want to get into Tekken more. It's arguably the biggest fighting game franchise these days. I feel like
Bigger than
personally,
Street Fighter?
I personally feel like casuals are more interested in Tekken than Street Fighter.
I would have guessed
That
the opposite.
that's just me though. I feel like there's a lot of people who aren't super into fighting games, but they're like, "Oh, I actually played Tekken and I really liked it." And maybe that's changed with Street Fighter 6, but I feel like it's not as it happened more with Tekken 7. So, with that being said, it's at least arguably the biggest fighting game.
You did say arguably.
Yeah, okay. So it is arguably the biggest fighting game franchise these days. So I do want to get into it more. And that's the game that I'm most interested in. I am also very, very interested in Star Wars Outlaw. I wouldn't say I'm excited for it, but I'm interested in it. Just because I thought the trailer looked good, but it's a Ubisoft game, and Ubisoft games haven't been the best lately. And I know EA is kind of the go-to bad video game publisher, but I feel
I feel like that's not their role anymore.
No.
You look at 2024. I mean, yeah, they're always gonna shit out sports games.
Yeah.
Your opinion on Madden and I don't know, FIFA or whatever. Those are going to be, however you feel about those is how you feel about those. Mm-hmm. But looking at like their original titles, I mean, last year we got Dead Space, which was fantastic, and Jedi Survivor, which was also fantastic. I'm sure there was something else. Did they publish? Oh yeah, because they've been doing their EA originals.
Yeah.
So they also had
Immortals of Aveum.
Yeah, which was fine.
Yeah. But it at least showed them trying something a little different.
Yeah, and kind of looking back even before last year, they published
It Takes Two.
It Takes Two, which is like I feel like
Game of the Year winner actually.
Yeah, the EA of
yesterday
of
yesteryear
today is not the same as the EA from a couple of years ago. I mean, it remains to be seen if BioWare can kind of work themselves out of the mess they're in, but I think that with EA being the company it is now, they might be in a better position to do so. And the reason we're kind of talking about that again is because you brought up Star Wars Outlaws, which is a game I'm also really excited about. But I do have kind of your same reservations. Ubisoft is acting like the EA of a couple of years ago, where there is no originality. They just seem to make like the worst decisions at every turn. I mean, look at Skull and Bones. All they had to do with that game was take Black Flag and make a new one, and they didn't. Instead, they decided to do something weird that nobody's excited for. So yeah, I think it's okay to be hesitant, but I think that Outlaws, hopefully that's their turning point, because they've got to do something different, and hopefully they're doing it with Star Wars. So I agree. I drafted it for a reason. I think that game, as long as it checks all the boxes, which the gameplay session they showed seems like it could, I think that could be a kind of a big surprise and hopefully a turning point for Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where I would like to say, well, it's Disney, so Disney wants it to be a very high quality game, but they also
it's not. I don't think it's not a Disney thing, but the Avatar game I think did fine. But kind of going back to the original question, so that's your top two, Tekken and Star Wars. What's kind of your third one?
Ooh, that's pretty tough, to be honest. I'm gonna go with Dragon's Dogma, probably for my third most excited game, just because I never beat the first one, just because I never got around to it. I did enjoy it, but another thing is my girlfriend's also really excited for it, so that's kind of transitioning to me, and yeah, it is
secondhand hype.
Exactly, and it is an RPG game, so the cool thing is, however she chooses to play the game, I can always play it differently, which makes it a little bit more fun as well. It's always fun to have a game like that and talking to other people and seeing what you did.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I did this. Oh, I didn't kill him. I saved him, and then I got this weapon or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think Dragon's Dogma is in my top three, kind of for a lot of the reasons you said. I was always interested in the first one, but just never got around to it. But the second one does seem to be a step up in pretty much every way. Plus, Capcom's been on a roll. We pretty much talked about it during the draft. I think that's going to be a game that could hit really big. As far as my number two game, I'm pretty excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I really liked Remake. I mean, I know a lot of people are mad about them splitting one game into 3, but Remake took me 40 hours, and this one seems like it's a way bigger slice, so this one might take me 80 hours, and I'm okay with that. I don't need the way I live my life, I'd rather have a 40 and 2 80-hour games broken up between years of release than a 200-hour game, because if I hear a game's 200 hours, I'm just not playing it. It's just not going to happen. Even an 80-hour game is stretching it. So yeah, Dragon's Dogma, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. If I had to pick one more, I think Unicorn Overlord is maybe one of the ones I'm most kind of for the same reason Star Wars. I think that it'll be a good game. I think it'll be big, but I just don't really know what to expect. I feel like because it is Vanillaware, the only game I've played by them is 13 Sentinels, but that was really good, and this way they told their story was really cool. I'm expecting something similar, and maybe that's going to be on me, and I'll be disappointed. But at the very least, I will get a cool art style. So that's kind of the games we're most excited about. Noah, I know we had talked kind of before we did the draft, like no remasters or remakes. Are there any kind of remasters or remakes that you are?
Yeah, Persona 3 Reloaded.
That's a remake. It's
okay. Is it a remake now? Or...
It's always been a remake.
Oh, okay, but remasters don't count.
Remasters and collections don't count.
Okay. To be honest, I don't really know many that are coming out. Persona's one I'm interested. Paper Mario, also one that I'm interested. But I also am not a big remaster guy. I bought the Alan Wake remaster a couple years back just because I really liked Alan Wake. And so, yeah, there's not really any remasters I know of. I can't think of any off the top of my head that I'm super interested in. What about you, though?
Yeah, there's a couple. I am excited for Paper Mario. I own the GameCube one, but I never got around to playing it, so if it's on the Switch, I probably will. Suikoden 1 and 2 are getting a collection. I hope that does well. Those are probably kind of the big ones. Mario versus Donkey Kong. I really liked the Game Boy one. I played it for the first time this last year, and I really enjoyed it. So a sequel to that should be pretty cool. Let's just kind of take a minute and kind of moving away from individual games. Let's talk kind of big picture. So I think 2024 I think might be an interesting. I think it will be an interesting year for the three manufacturers. So going into this year, Sony is like far and away destroying Microsoft. But going into the year, I mean, look at our draft. What games did we draft that are Sony games? I mean, I guess if you count Final Fantasy VII, which they paid for, and Helldivers.
Yep.
All the other, they don't have any other exclusives. We don't know what they have planned.
I believe they have Rise of the Ronin.
That was one of the games I was going to draft.
Yeah, but I didn't draft it. They do have Rise of the Ronin, but that is Team Ninja, not really Sony Studios. As far as I'm aware, we don't really know any.
I don't think they have any first-party game besides Helldivers 2.
Yeah, and Rise of the Ronin, but yeah. I'm sorry, yeah. Simon, say something. I don't know what's going on. I'm losing my brain here, buddy.
Save me.
Exactly.
But whereas Microsoft, I mean, they've been announcing games every 5 minutes for the past however many years, and some of these games are bound to come out. I think we know for sure that Hellblade is coming out. That's a game I'm personally not interested in, but a lot of people are excited about it. You drafted Avowed, which is a game I'm actually really excited for. And that's a game I think could hit.
What game did I draft again?
Avowed.
Oh, okay. What game is that again?
I think it's gonna be a pretty good game that's exclusive to Xbox.
What game?
Fuck off. Whatever. It won't matter if Mario Odyssey 2 comes out. You're screwed anyway.
Unless Silksong also comes out.
I hope Silksong comes out and it sucks.
Oh, dude, you are getting so many people angry with that comment.
It's not my fault.
They're gonna be like, I've been waiting years for this game, sequel to my favorite game of all time. How dare you?
Yeah, I played Silksong, or I played Hollow Knight. It's fun.
And it was a great game.
It's good, but anyway, kind of going back to it, Microsoft is in a position to really hit this year. Sony, I don't know if they are, and then Nintendo, I think, is going to release a new console, and who knows what that's going to look like. So who do you think, when we come back in the end of next year, who are we going to look back and say this platform won?
That's a really good question. I think at this point, I'm gonna say Nintendo for the only reason that we don't know what Sony's working on. Sony, they have been releasing a lot of big games. So like we knew God of War Ragnarok was coming out. They released that last year. We knew they were working on Spider-Man 2. They released that this year. We don't really know what the major game that they have in store for us next year, if they even have one. And I think that is really going to hurt them.
No.
And so, sorry.
No, I was just going to say I agree. Because if you look at you kind of look at their big studios, Sony Santa Monica released God of War last year.
Yeah.
Maybe we get like a Miles Morales type of thing, but I don't think so because they just came out with the DLC.
Yeah. Free single player DLC.
The Horizon devs, God, what are they called?
Guerrilla?
Guerrilla. I knew it started with a G. Yeah. I wanted to call it God Hand. I was like, no, it's not that. Studio God Hand.
Oh, I should have drafted God Hand too!
That would have been a bad idea. Guerrilla came out with Horizon last year. And I think they just came out with big DLC for that, so that they're not coming out with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Naughty Dog just had Factions canceled, so they're not coming out with anything. Housemarque came out with Returnal last year, 2 years ago. Either way, still way too early to get another game off the ground. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at kind of big Sony studios, Bungie, maybe Marathon comes out. I don't think so, though. I think that's going to be 2025. Bluepoint, I don't think so, because they were developing a new IP from kind of the ground up, and we know they just finished. Take time. Yeah, they just finished Demon's Souls.
Couple years back.
3 or 4 years ago. I guess maybe we might see that, but I don't think it's coming out this year. Mm-hmm. I think really the only studio they've got is Sucker Punch.
Which, to be fair, Sucker Punch.
Do you think we see Ghost of Tsushima 2? That's
honestly,
or do you think? Okay, kind of sorry to interrupt. 2 questions. Mm-hmm. Do you think we see something from Sucker Punch, and do you think it's Ghost of Tsushima 2 or a new IP?
I feel like we will see something from Sucker Punch. Ghost of Tsushima.
But it might not come out this year, or you think it comes out this year too?
I think it could. I'm not going to say for sure it will, but I definitely think we're going to see something, and I could see it coming out because, like I said, Sony really doesn't have any games coming out by its major players.
No, I agree. And I 100% agree.
I could see a game. I personally don't really think it will be Ghost of Tsushima 2, just because I don't really know what kind of story they can tell. I could see a Ghost of Tsushima sequel that is about America coming to Japan, because for those of you who don't know their history, America kind of was like, they came to Japan and they were like, hey, your country's closed off to the rest of the world. Open up your country. And Japan was like, why should you do that? America was like, well, we got these giant gunboats that, are pretty strong. And so Japan was like, okay, let's do that. And there was a major political thing in Japan was, should we open up and kind of give America all this stuff for our safety and maybe for technological purposes as well? And the others was like, no, we're samurai, we should fight them. And so I do feel like that could be a good sequel idea, is about like a samurai that is trying to rebel against them.
But do you think it will be Ghost of Tsushima 2, or you just
No, I think that's really the only good interesting storyline it could go into, but especially during that time, guns were becoming more popular, and so combat would have to change a decent amount.
Well, but that's what you do in a sequel, right? You expand on it. They've already got the bones for the game. Why not, if add a gun?
That's true.
I think that's the way to do it.
So they could do that, but I personally think they might do something else. Heck, maybe they go back to Infamous. I feel like so real quick, I'm just talking, and the second I said maybe go back to Infamous, Simon fucking cringed.
And to be clear, I actually really like Infamous. I don't think they will. If anything, for some reason, maybe this is me being stupid, I see them going back to Sly Cooper before they go back to Infamous. Because I think a Sly Cooper game you could make for cheaper.
Yeah, and Ratchet and Clank did. Ratchet and Clank, I don't know if it did well, but I know people liked it.
Yeah,
Probably didn't do as good as Spider-Man,
I
but
think in terms of likeliness, I think it's Ghost of Tsushima, Sly Cooper, Infamous. I don't think they ever.
new IP out of the question. I mean, I
I
guess
think we get Ghost of Tsushima 2.
I
Ghost of
could,
Tsushima 2 between new IP and Sly Cooper. I think
okay.
they would. I think that they got good bones in Ghost of Tsushima 2. I don't see them wanting to, because obviously a sequel is
Yeah.
going to be easier to develop than a new IP. I don't see them wanting to restart that process when
Mhm.
they've got a game that did well. Because
Mhm.
I think it was like, I think it was Sucker Punch's like best selling game.
I could see that. I know it was a huge hit in Japan.
Yeah, and I think that, and Sony doesn't care as much about Japan as they used to in the
Mhm.
past, but it's still an important region, and I know
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
it did well here. I think that it's it's not going to be God of War or Spider Man, but I think I don't I think it's safer, and I think Sony's in this position where they want safe bets. All the publishers do.
Just a heads up, I just thought of another risky game that could come out this year,
Go.
but that might
We'll
maybe
save
I'll save
it.
it.
Well,
Yeah,
you can
we'll
do it in
save
a
it.
couple 7
Yeah.
months.
Sorry, going off of what you were saying, yeah, that is a very good point. I can't think of the last time a game did very well and was well received, and they didn't make a sequel unless something bigger came out. So, for example, Dead Space remake came out this year. It was a good game. I don't know how well it sold,
It
but
sold fine.
it sold fine. But we're not getting a sequel because that team is working on an Iron Man game, correct?
Yeah,
So
and obviously Marvel's going to trump.
Dead Space.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. And who knows? Maybe I think we would have seen in the Insomniac leaks if like Ghost of Tsushima, if Sony got the license to like somebody else and Sucker Punch
Yeah.
was working on a Marvel game. I don't think so.
No,
though.
definitely
I
not.
think that, like I said, I think we're getting Ghost of Tsushima 2, maybe not in 2024.
Mhm.
I think we'll see it in 2024, and
Yeah.
it'll come out in 2025. So then that kind of just leaves Microsoft and Nintendo.
So that just kind of leaves, the two other
The
people,
two
two
other
other thirds, 66%.
So Microsoft really can only go up.
Yes.
After Redfall and Starfield, which people like Starfield, I thought it was fine.
I'd say, for what I've seen online, majority of people were disappointed.
I think that that's a good way to put it. It's not a bad game, but it's definitely disappointing.
Yeah.
Myself included.
I have seen people say it's a bad game, but those people are ignoring a Golem or what was the other one? Kong
or Quantum Error
or Quantum Error, or another one came out, like the Avatar game that came out.
Oh yeah,
and
the Airbender game, not
yeah.
the Ubisoft one. So I think that, and so again, Microsoft has announced so many games. They've got so many games in development because they've bought up all these studios. I mean, Hellblade's coming out.
Yeah.
I think Avowed. I really think Avowed is coming out. I think Avowed will be good. But they've got a couple of other games that they announced last year that look like they might come out. I think a big one that looked from the gameplay they showed that I think could be really good, and I almost drafted this, but I didn't because I'm not totally sure it's coming out, was Clockwork Revolution, which looks like kind of Bioshocky. And if Sony only has Final Fantasy, Helldivers, and Rise of the Ronin, and Microsoft comes out with Avowed, and it's as good as it looks, and Hellblade is the game that people want it to be. I'm personally not a fan of Hellblade, but and then Clockwork Revolution is as good as it is. I think this year goes to Microsoft. At the very least, it's a tie.
I think so, but we can't ignore Redfall and Starfield. Those were the big games that excuse me, sorry. Those were the big games that came out this year, and Microsoft, they were their top AAA
Yeah,
games.
they dropped the ball.
Exactly.
They 100% dropped the ball.
But in that regard, we can't also forget about Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was a game that got shadow dropped, and a lot of people really liked it. And so, begs the question, is that just going to be Microsoft's thing? Is their AAA games going to disappoint, but their more like AA games going to be really good? And can they succeed? And another thing to think about as well is they acknowledged how poorly received their games, and I believe Microsoft said, like, we are ashamed by what happened with Redfall. We're going to make sure this doesn't happen
Well,
again.
yeah. Spencer basically said that it was a game they should have paid more attention to,
Mhm.
and I would assume that a lot of these games maybe they are. I would assume after the disaster of Redfall,
Mhm.
Microsoft leadership or Xbox leadership had a meeting with all these companies and said, "What are you working on? Show
Yeah.
us." And so maybe kind of to your point, these games aren't going to come out this year because Microsoft did kind of take a magnifying glass to them and
Yeah.
see where they were at, and they're not as close as we thought because they need to be reworked.
Yeah.
I still think Avowed is going to hit this year.
Mhm.
I think Obsidian has shown they're a studio who
They're
knows how to
competent.
make. Yeah, there's a studio, they know how to make a good game. They've made games in a cave with a box of scraps, and now they have Microsoft money. So I think they're in a position to hit. And I think as far as kind of the sins past, like Redfall and Starfield, I think it won't matter. I think Microsoft is playing a long game, and I think as long as if Hellblade comes out and hits, Avowed comes out and hits, and they have one more first-party game, and all these games are on Game Pass, I think people might start coming over to them, especially if, I mean, we're now halfway through the generation. If PlayStation owners are looking at their games and they're like, oh, it's a little slower, I don't have anything, well, I can go pick up an Xbox for $400 or whatever, and Avowed looks great. I think that this could be the year where Microsoft maybe turns it around, but I know people have also been saying that for the past couple of years, so it's tough to say.
I mean, I feel like it's one of those things. Unless you're under the age of 14, I feel like you want every console to do well.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And so for that reason, I don't have an Xbox. I don't see myself getting an Xbox, but I would like to want an Xbox just because I think it's cool and I would like to play the good games that they have. But at the same time, yeah, we gotta keep this stuff in mind. I'm really hoping that they do well. However, unfortunately, like you said, people have been saying this could be their year, and it never has been.
Mm-hmm. Nope. And then the last one is, of course, Nintendo. We've kind of talked about it a little bit already. I think Nintendo is launching a console this year. I think you can look at their release calendar for the Switch, and right now it is shaping up to probably be the worst year for the Switch. Really, the only things we know is like Princess Peach, Showtime, Mario and Luigi, and Thousand Year Door remake, which are all, and Trace Memory. It's just a bunch of remasters.
Yeah.
Which I think is them because their studios are working on Switch 2 games like Metroid Prime and a 3D Mario. So I think that we'll probably see that in the first half of the year, probably in the first quarter, and then we'll probably get a nice little launch lineup. And I'm assuming that Nintendo will kind of not mess with it. I think they're just going to keep the Switch and just make it more powerful. And to be honest, that's all I want. The Switch shows its age a lot. Yeah. I got the OLED and I love it, but when my fiance was playing Tears of the Kingdom on our big TV, I was like, this game looks like garbage.
I'm sorry.
No, that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
it looks bad.
I think the best way to to just show the gap between the Switch and other gen consoles is I've been playing Monster Hunter Rise. First, I was playing it just handheld mode, but then I docked it, put it on my TV, started playing it. And it's a game, it's alright. But then you watch the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer, and it just looks so completely different. And now, credit where credit is due, Rise is a game that's a little older. And
it's not that old. It's like a year or so.
Yeah, like a year or two. I think probably 2 or 3. And Wilds is a game that's coming out 2025, but I think that
that is
still shows that it does kind of show the difference between those two, the power difference. So for that reason, I think that they really do need to soup up the console. And I would say that wouldn't be a bad idea for Nintendo to just soup up the Switch and call it a day, but I could also see a concern for them is that consumers won't really realize the difference between the new Switches, because you got to think, Switch succeeded from the casual market, and
I think that and as long as they don't do something stupid like name it the Switch U or something, you name it the Switch 2 or the Super Switch, I think people will get the gist. People buy a new PlayStation when those come out, and those are just a bigger number. They could do a Switch 2. I think they'll do something like the Super Switch. But yeah, I do think that they retain the Switch name, and I think they mostly keep it just a more powerful version. And that's all I want, to be honest. If they announce a Switch 2 and they say, it's exactly the same, but all the games will look better. Here's what it can do. I'm probably getting it day one. I actually probably would have bought an OLED Steam Deck if I didn't think the Switch 2 was coming this year. But I'm like, I don't need both. I think that the Switch 2 will be able to do everything I need it to do, and that's all I want. So, all right, Noah. One last question. Assuming Xbox has what do you think? Not necessarily that you're going to buy either of these, but which are you closer to buying in 2024? An Xbox Series X or a Switch 2?
I would say, tough question. I would probably go with an Xbox as of right now, because while the Switch 2, let's say Switch 2 that gets announced, and by the end of the lifeline, Switch 2 is going to be a better console, which I don't think that's a hot take. It's very likely that could happen. If I get a Switch 2, it's going to maybe have, one, maybe two good games, whereas an Xbox still has a full library. Not to mention, if I buy a Switch 2 immediately, it's going to be at its most expensive, whereas it could always be a price drop. So I would say I am closer to buying an Xbox just because I have access to a lot of games for, $15 a month?
I think they raised it, yeah.
That makes sense.
It's like 17 or 18 now. But...
yeah. But, so I am still a little closer to an Xbox.
No, makes sense. I own it, so Switch 2 for me. But I kind of going back to what I said, I think I am closer to buying a Switch 2 over a Steam Deck OLED, just because I want to make sure I can play Nintendo games, and as long as it can play most of the games I want, I think I'm okay with it. So that, I think, about wraps it up. Before we get out of here, Noah, what have you been playing?
I have been playing a lot of games.
Yeah, you did. So I've been collecting a large assortment of games that were released in 2023, and then you came to this country and have now been playing the fruits of my labor. So, yeah, go and number off everything you've been playing.
So, I've been playing. First game I was playing was Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I'll talk a little bit more about that, but just real quick, I am enjoying it a lot. Other game I've been playing is Armored Core 6. It's a game that started off kind of slow. I was like, yeah, it's all right. But then the more I play, I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty cool.
It takes a little bit of time to kind of grab you, and then once you figure it out, it's like, oh.
And it is really cool when you do something, you're like, what the heck, this is super hard. You swap out one weapon for another one, and it's just a breeze.
Yeah, you're like, oh, you were struggling against a fight and with dual shotguns, and I was like,
no, I was using dual handguns.
No, remember the other fight where you
had the
shotguns
one.
And you're like, I've got to switch out something. I was like, no, you don't. You're like, no, I think I'm going to switch weapons. I was like, just get in his ass. And
yeah.
Like, what? I was like, treat your shotguns like shotguns, and you're like, okay, and you just demolished him.
Well, even then, too, I was using dual handguns, and I was like, this guy's super hard.
Oh, yeah, before
and then all I did was switch one handgun to a machine gun, and the other handgun to a sword, and I just, destroyed it.
Yeah.
But, so I've been playing that, and I'm getting into it. The other one is Dead Space, which game is unavailable in Japan, and so it's like, okay, this was a good game, and I'm going to go ahead and play it. And it's not the best game of the year, but it is fun, and I am enjoying it. But now, Jedi... okay, so... I am still amazed at how just things happen and how you pulled this off. So, we go over, I arrive back into America, and Simon has all these games, and I know I'm going to play them. I don't want to play Spider-Man 2 because I want my girlfriend to watch it because she's interested. It's like, I'll try Star Wars. Wasn't a huge fan of the first one. I liked it enough, but I wasn't a huge fan. It's like, I'll play Star Wars. And so, beginning intro happens. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not super interested in it. You actually hyped up one part in the intro. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that was cool, I guess. But then I start playing, I'm like, this game feels really...
It just feels fun.
It feels so good. I was like, feels so much better than I was expecting. And eventually it was just one of those things where it was like every time we hung out, I was like, hey, do you mind if I play Jedi Survivor? So it was just one of those things. I'm like, God damn, this game is good. I was so enjoying it. And then come Christmas time, Simon gives me my present. And I opened it up, and it was Jedi Survivor. And I don't know when you bought it, but just how there was a couple different things you were thinking about for my present, and the fact that was the game that you ended up getting, this game that I was just so addicted to.
Yeah.
A game that, and I don't even like Star Wars. Really.
No, you're not a Star Wars guy. And I did buy it before you played it, but you had said, oh, it's a game I'm interested in. And I was like, well, I don't know what else to do, so I'll just get it. And then when you ended up loving it, I was like, oh, well, that worked out pretty well for me.
And like I said, I didn't like Star Wars. I realized I didn't like Star Wars when playing the first game.
Yeah. But you were interested in the second, so it all worked out.
Exactly. But real quick, I'm going to ask you a question, Simon. So I mentioned that's what I got for Christmas. What did you get for Christmas?
Oh, yeah. For Christmas, we should have said that at the beginning. You got me a couple of months ago. We had talked about, I was like, we were looking at Japanese Final Fantasies, and we were like, oh, it's cool that the Japanese Final Fantasies all have, the covers are all the same thematically. And I was like, well, it'd be cool to own. I don't know if I need to own every Final Fantasy because I can play them all better versions on my Switch and stuff. But it would be cool to have all of the Japanese ones as a collection thing. So you got me, I had already had 12. You got me the cartridge of 1, a really, really nice, complete in box version of 6. These are all Japanese versions. 7, 9, 10, and 13.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's super cool. I've got those. I've got to hang up a shelf or something to display them. But yeah, that was my Christmas gift from you, and that was, like I said, the best part was 6. The 6 copy is it's super nice. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was surprised. I got a really good deal on that. I was like, so a lot of the cartridges for those games, they're a little dirty because they're old, and I saw this 6 that was still in the box, and I was like, wow, that's surprisingly cheap. So I went up to the clerk and I was like, hey, does this have the cartridge? And if so, can I see it? And they were like, yeah, sure. And it was good condition, obviously. So yeah, I bought it. I was very surprised that I was able to get that.
Yeah, no, I appreciated that. Yeah, and I've been playing a decent amount. I finally wrapped up Alan Wake 2. That is a I don't know how I feel about it. It's good. It's good. I don't know. It's a game that I never liked playing, but I can acknowledge it's good.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it, but it's good. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's Dead Space and Resident Evil are more fun to play, but the way it tells its story is just cool. But then its story is also not really my thing, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about it. I think next time a Remedy game comes out, I think I need you to remind me that I don't really like Remedy games.
Because it is one of those things where I really like Remedy. I love all their games. It's a developer, it's not for everyone, but for me, it's perfect. And with that being said, I do think that they need somebody, or they really need to work on their gameplay a bit.
Well, and I think, to be fair, Alan Wake 2 is, I think, their most fun game to play, but it's still a little step below. But,
yeah, and I think that like I said, I think they need to kind of find somebody or really work on their gameplay a little bit more, because I have been seeing a lot of people saying, oh, Alan Wake 2 is by far the most overrated game this year.
I would actually probably agree with that.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's good, but a lot of I think it's closer to an 8. But other than that, I did finally wrap up Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm.
Game's fine. I got a little burnt out towards the end. I still like playing kind of those traditional Zeldas, but the last dungeon in that game is not very good. And then fighting the last boss with those stick controller, it's a game I think it doesn't work great on the Switch. Other than that, I've been kind of working my way through Jedi Survivor 2. I haven't played a ton of it just because I've been kind of busy with other stuff.
Sorry, it's a Fallen Order 2 Jedi Survivor.
Okay, fall over Team Jedi Survivor. And then I actually picked up KOTOR because it was on sale, and I just started that, and so I'm still early in. I haven't even left the first planet, but we'll see how that goes.
I don't know if we've mentioned it, by the way. Simon is on a huge Star Wars kick right now.
I don't know how it happened.
No, you know exactly how it happened.
It was a cross between Andor and Jedi Survivor, honestly. But yeah. So that's where we're at. That's what we're all playing. I'm hoping to wrap up Survivor before we kind of get into the onslaught of 2024, which still seems like a little bit slower year, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff. Yeah. All right, before we get out of here, Noah, is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, so I'm going to plug that scene in Cory in the House, the one where he chases the kid around. He chases the kid.
We all know the scene.
Yeah, of course. It's the one where there's the kid who's pretending to be in a wheelchair, and then Cory chases him around with a skeleton on a motorized scooter. That's what scene I'm gonna plug. The scene from Cory in the House where Cory chases a kid in the wheelchair with a motorized scooter, skeleton on a motorized scooter. That's my plug for the day.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, then I'll get us out of here. Thank you to Pecan Pie on Upbeat for our intro and outro songs. Thank you to Zach Robinson for our logo. And thank you to Gabrielle Esty for our editing. If you liked this episode, please follow or subscribe and consider leaving us a rating and review so more people can find us. We're still trying to grow. You can also send us an email, if you would like, at gamedisc.podcast@gmail.com. You can send us questions, suggestions, or anything you want. And we will see you all